Pass. First time. Canadian Citizenship Test. What provinces are referred to as the Atlantic provinces? 1. Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. 2. Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick and Labrador. 3. Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick and Quebec. 4. Prince Edward Island, Manitoba, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And the answer is Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Name 2 Canadian symbols. Number 1. The Canadian flag and the hockey stick. Number 2. The fleur-de-lune and the Canadian crown. Number 3. The beaver and the white bear. Number 4. The maple leaf and the Canadian flag. And the answer is the maple leaf and the Canadian flag. What is the role of the courts in Canada? Number 1. To defend Canadian borders. Number 2. To settle disputes. Number 3. To keep people safe and to enforce the law. Number 4. To provide national security data to the federal government. And the answer is to settle disputes. What are the 3 levels of government? Number 1. The members of Parliament, the Supreme Court and the police. Number 2. The sovereign, the Senate and the cabinet. Number 3. The executive, legislative and judicial. Number 4. Federal, provincial or territorial and municipal. And the answer is federal, provincial or territorial and municipal. After an election, which party the government? Number 1. The party with the most seats in the House of Commons. Number 2. The party with the most seats in the Senate. Number 3. The party who has been chosen by the sovereign. Number 4. The party whose leader has been directly elected by Canadians. And the answer is the party with the most seats in the House of Commons. What is the highest honors available to Canadians? Number 1. The Royal Cross. Number 2. The Victoria Cross. Number 3. The Canadian Cross. Number 4. The British Cross. And the answer is the Victoria Cross. Who is entitled to vote in Canadian federal election? Number 1. Canadian who are members of a political party. Number 2. Adult Canadian citizens and adult permanent residents. Number 3. Any Canadian citizens on the voters list. Number 4. A Canadian citizen, at least 18 years old on voting day and on the voters list. And the answer is a Canadian citizen, at least 18 years old on voting day and on the voters list. What is the difference between the role of the sovereign and that of the Prime Minister? Number 1. The sovereign is the head of state, and the Prime Minister is the head of government who actually directs the governing of the country. Number 2. The sovereign is the head of government, and the Prime Minister is the head of state who actually directs the governing of the country. Number 3. The sovereign is the head of state who actually directs the governing of the country, and the Prime Minister is the head of state. Number 4. The sovereign is the lead of state and the Prime Minister is the head of government, and they actually direct the governing of the country. And the answer is the sovereign is the head of state, and the prime minister is the head of government who actually directs the governing of the country. What are the three branches of government? Number 1, the municipal, provincial, and federal. Number 2, the executive, legislative, and judicial. Number 3, the sovereign, the Senate, and the cabinet. Number 4, the Constitution, the Magna Carta, and the British North America Act. And the answer is the executive, legislative, and judicial. What are three responsibilities of citizenship? Number 1, obeying the law, taking responsibility for oneself and one's family, serving on a jury. Number 2, being loyal to Canada, recycling newspapers, serving in the Navy, Army, or Air Force. Number 3, learning both official languages, voting in elections, belonging to a union. Number 4, buying Canadian products, owning your own business, using less water. And the answer is obeying the law, taking responsibility for oneself and one's family, serving on a jury. What are the four of citizen ensured in Canadian Charter? Number 1, mobility rights, Aboriginal people's rights, official language rights, and right to work. Number 2, mobility rights, right to work, official language rights, and right of religion freedom. Number 3, mobility rights, right to work, official language rights, and rights of free education. Number 4, mobility rights, Aboriginal people's rights, official language rights, and multiculturalism. And the answer is mobility rights, Aboriginal people's rights, official language rights, and multiculturalism. What is the meaning of the Remembrance Day poppy? Number 1, to remember the sacrifice of Canadians who have served or died in wars up the present day. Number 2, to remember our sovereign. Number 3, to celebrate Confederation. Number 4, to honor prime ministers who have died. And the answer is to remember the sacrifice of Canadians who have served or died in wars up the present day. When does a federal election have to be held under legislation passed by Parliament? Number 1, once. Number 2, within 4 years of the most recent. Number 3, within 5 years of the last election. Number 4, the Prime Minister can call the election any time at his own will. And the answer is within 4 years of the most recent. Canada become constitutional monarchy under which of the following? Number 1, Magna Carta of 1215. Number 2, the Quebec Act of 1774. Number 3, Great Canadian Charter of Freedom 1982. Number 4, the British North America Act 1867. And the answer is the British North America Act 1867. In Oath of Citizenship, to whom Canadian profess their loyalty? Number 1, the Canadian Constitution. Number 2, the sovereign, Queen or King. Number 3, Prime Minister of Canada. Number 4, the Canadian flag. And the answer is the sovereign, Queen or King. Which of the following women group was given the right to vote in federal elections? Number 1, women who lost a family member in World War. Number 2 women working in munitions factories in World War I. Number 3 women married to soldiers in World War I. Number 4 women serving as nurses in World War I. And the answer is women serving as nurses in World War I. In the D-Day invasion of Western Europe on June 6, 1944, Canadian forces stormed and took which beach from the German army? Number 1 Netherlands. Number 2 Lisbon. Number 3 Juneau. Number 4 Paris. And the answer is Juneau. Upper Canada and Lower Canada were united as the Province of Canada in year. Number 1 1830. Number 2 1860. Number 3 1840. Number 4 1850. And the answer is 1840. The map of the east coast of Canada was first drawn by Number 1 Ferdinand Magellan. Number 2 Christopher Columbus. Number 3 Jacques Cartier. Number 4 John Cabot. And the answer is John Cabot. Rights for Aboriginal people are Number 1 Ferdinand protected under various treaties. Number 2 guaranteed by King George Ely Royal Proclamation 1763. Number 3 guaranteed in the Constitution. Number 4 protected under provincial legislations. And the answer is guaranteed in the Constitution. Which province of the British Empire introduced abolition of slavery in North America? Number 1 Upper Canada. Number 2 Lower Canada. Number 3 Newfoundland and Labrador. Number 4 Nova Scotia. And the answer is Upper Canada. Canada Constitution bases the principle of habeas corpus, which mean Number 1 the state has the right to imprison you at any time. Number 2 you can't be unlawfully imprisoned by the state. Number 3 your rights are less important than the rights of the state. Number 4 the state has ultimate power over your property. And the answer is you can't be unlawfully imprisoned by the state. Poets and songwriters has hailed Canada. Number 1 the Great Democracy. Number 2 the Great Force. Number 3 the Great Dominion. Number 4 the Great Confederation. And the answer is the Great Dominion. In 1982, the Canadian Constitution was amended to include the Number 1 Canadian Charter of Citizens' Responsibility. Number 2 Canadian Charter of Crime and Punishment. Number 3 Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Number 4 Canadian Charter of National Allegiance. And the answer is Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. How many Canadian and Newfoundland servicemen served in World War I? Number 1 250,000. Number 2 500,000. Number 3 600,000. Number 4 over 1 million. And the answer is over 1 million. Which of these is not protected in Canadian law? Number 1 Freedom of association. Number 2, freedom of peaceful assembly. Number 3, freedom of speech. Number 4, freedom to refuse to comply the law. And the answer is freedom to refuse to comply the law. Which mark is required on the ballot papers in the circle next to the name of your chosen candidate? Number 1, tick. Number 2, X. Number 3, any symbol. Number 4, circle. And the answer is X. The phrase of dominion sea to sea came from number 1, French culture. Number 2, English culture. Number 3, Bible. Number 4, Aboriginal culture. And the answer is Bible. Mount Logan, the highest mountain in Canada, is in what province or territory? Number 1, Northwest Territories. Number 2, British Columbia. Number 3, Yukon. Number 4, Nunavut. And the answer is Yukon. Who has suggested the name Dominion of Canada in 1864? Number 1, Sir John Alexander Macdonald. Number 2, Sir Leonard Tilley. Number 3, Sir George Etienne Cartier. Number 4, Queen Victoria. And the answer is Sir Leonard Tilley. Which of these is not protected in Canadian law? Number 1, freedom of association. Number 2, freedom of peaceful assembly. Number 3, freedom of speech. Number 4, freedom to refuse to comply the law. And the answer is freedom to refuse to comply the law. Lieutenant governors usually serve the terms of number 1, 5 years. Number 2, 4 years. Number 3, 7 years. Number 4, 8 years. And the answer is 5 years. Métis people speak their own dialect known as number 1, Kannada. Number 2, Michif. Number 3, Inuktitut. Number 4, Inuit. And the answer is Michif. West Coast Railway completed in year. Number 1, 1871. Number 2, 1869. Number 3, 1898. Number 4, 1885. And the answer is 1885. What are the 3 main components of Oath of the Citizenship? Number 1, loyalty to the sovereign, work hard and serve in Canadian forces. Number 2, loyalty to the sovereign, obey law and serve in Canadian forces. Number 3, loyalty to the sovereign, faithfully observe the law and fulfill the duties as Canadian citizen. Number 4, loyalty to the Constitution, faithfully observe the law and fulfill the duties as Canadian citizen. And the answer is loyalty to the sovereign, faithfully observe the law and fulfill the duties as Canadian citizen. Which of these Canadian tribes lived by farming and hunting? Number 1, Dean. Number 2, Iroquois. Number 3, Cree. Number 4, Sioux. And the answer is Iroquois. During the American Revolution, how many Loyalists fled to Canada? Number 1, 40,000. Number 2, 30,000. Number 3, 60,000. Number 4, 50,000. And the answer is 40,000. Canada is personified by Number 1, the Prime Minister. Number 2, the Constitution. Number 3, the flag. Number 4, the sovereign, queen or king. And the answer is the sovereign, queen or king. To defend Canada, the Duke of Wellington chose Bytown as the endpoint of his network of forts, which is present days. Number 1, Ottawa. Number 2, Montreal. Number 3, Toronto. Number 4, Edmonton. And the answer is Ottawa. What are the 2 basic requirements of Citizenship Test? Number 1, to test the knowledge of Canada history and English language. Number 2, to test the knowledge of English and the knowledge of French. Number 3, to test the knowledge of Canada electoral process and the knowledge Canada judicial system. Number 4, to test the knowledge of Canada and rights and responsibilities of citizenship and adequate of English or French. And the answer is to test the knowledge of Canada and rights and responsibilities of citizenship and adequate of English or French. In 1813, American invaders burnt down Government House and the Parliament buildings in York. Which city is this in present days? Number 1, Halifax. Number 2, Kingston. Number 3, Montreal. Number 4, Toronto. And the answer is Toronto. In 1812, in revenge for British interference with their shipping, which country attempted to invade Canada? Number 1, Spain. Number 2, France. Number 3, Portugal. Number 4, United States. And the answer is United States. Which of following is the Canadian system of government? Number 1, autocracy. Number 2, republican democracy. Number 3, benign dictatorship. Number 4, constitutional monarchy. And the answer is constitutional monarchy. April 9th is celebrated as remarkable victory of April 1917 as Number 1, Vimy Day. Number 2, Confederation Day. Number 3, Canada Day. Number 4, Dominion Day. And the answer is Vimy Day. A provincial legislature comprises the elected assembly and Number 1, a regional president. Number 2, a regional prime minister. Number 3, a lieutenant governor. Number 4, a governor general. And the answer is a lieutenant governor. Canada is known around the world as Number 1, military power. Number 2, peaceful country. Number 3, good governed country. Number 4, strong and free. And the answer is good governed country. In Canada's justice system, what does presumption of innocence mean? Number 1, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Number 2, the judge can determine who is guilty without evidence. Number 3, the Prime Minister can determine who is innocent in a court. Number 4, everybody is guilty until proven innocent. And the answer is everyone is innocent until proven guilty. When is Canada Day? Number 1, the second Monday of July. Number 2, the third Monday of May. Number 3, September 6th of each year. Number 4, July 1st every year. And the answer is July 1st every year. What does voting by secret ballot mean? Number 1, the voter should not tell anyone for whom she voted. Number 2, no one can watch you vote or look at your marked ballot. Number 3, no one can watch you vote except the election officer. Number 4, only the candidate you vote for can watch your marked ballot. And the answer is no one can watch you vote or look at your marked ballot. Thank you for visiting our channel. Please subscribe, like, share and comment.